Hello and welcome back to NWCL Beyond the Boundary. I'm Colby Donnelly, and today I'm with Atherton CC's Director of Cricket and former England under-19s cricketer, Jon Fearick. How are you, John?
I'm good, thanks, Colby.
Good. So today I want to ask you about Atherton CC, your role at the club, and a bit about your cricketing career as well. You okay with that?
Yeah, sure, mate.
Good. So firstly, could you introduce yourself, please? So tell about yourself and how did you get involved at Atherton?
So I'll say my name's Jonathan Fearick. I'm 45. I first went down to Atherton when I was about 8 years old. Um, my, my, my dad got me into cricket. He loved cricket. He didn't play cricket, but he really enjoyed it. He was a primary school teacher, and he would often obviously finish at four-ish, and then he'd take me to Old Trafford to watch the cricket for the last sort of hour and a half because he used to get in for free, um, and just loved it. So took me down to Atherton via a mutual friend that my dad knew, and that's where it started. And I played at Atherton from being 7 or 8ish up to being 19.
Good. So I just want to look about a quick look at last season. So you got promoted into the Premiership. I want to know how did you feel like the 2024 campaign went, and what do you think your team has learned going into the upcoming season?
It went really well, obviously, because we gained promotion, which was the objective at the start of it. Um, Everything went well. I mean, it was from the year before. It was a challenge because obviously when I got this job, we weren't really going anywhere. We're pretty bog average, to be honest. Um, so it was nice last season to have some success. Um, it, the beginning of the season, it was a little bit up and down, but once we found our rhythm, I think we won 10 of our last 12 matches. So it was really good, mate.
So looking ahead into the 2025 season, which at time recording will start this Saturday. So what are your expectations in the Premiership this season, and how have you recruited to prepare yourself for the challenge?
Well, I expect it's obviously going to be a lot more difficult. Um, how difficult time will tell, but I'm quietly confident that we can do well. I mean, the boring answer would be, we obviously let's stay up, but I think we can do more than that. I don't want to make any big predictions that might come back to bite me, but I really think we can compete because we've got some talented players. We've got some good players now and players who do things the right way. So really looking forward to it. Like I say, it's going to be more difficult. I think sort of the pros have obviously a little bit better. Teams are a lot deeper in strength. I mean, there was occasion last season where if you get somebody 3 or 4 down, you've probably won the game in some games, but obviously in the top league that won't happen. There's lads who can come in at 7 and 8, capable of getting runs, etc. And just obviously the team's a little bit more streetwise in the top league. So, but yeah, we're going to be ready for it, and we're looking forward to it.
So you recruited well this year. Can you tell us a bit about who you've brought into the club this year?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel we're very good with the ball. I feel like we've got all bases covered bowling wise. Um, so we obviously wanted to recruit a batsman. Um, as you probably know, it's not easy. I've spent a lot of time over winter speaking to people, chasing people, trying to convince people. Um, but we finally decided on Akmal Ghaffur. He came up on our radar several times and had some good chats with people that really vouch for him. He's played in all the top leagues, at Liverpool Comp, Bradford Premier League, and always scored runs. So he's a bit of a dasher. He gets on with it, which is something that we've not got. He scores very quickly, so obviously we're looking forward to seeing what he can do. Um, and then unfortunately we lost Mohamed Nazim due to sort of work commitments and stuff, and he's opened up a new shop. He's um, concentrating on that. So we weren't. I was looking at it. I wasn't. It's like should we, shouldn't we? And we was looking around, and again, I kept seeing a lad at Bryn School, Atik Shah, who always played well against us. Um, and I spoke to Atik, and he really wanted to give it a go in the top division. And he's someone who he's good at everything really. He can bat, he can bowl, he's a swing bowler, he can field, and he's a good lad as well. So those two will slot into the team and obviously make us stronger than last season. But it was mainly the batting that we wanted to just strengthen up a little bit, because obviously we do rely on the professional. So yeah, like I say, everything's in place now.
So I'm looking to your role as director of cricket for the club. So can you tell us a bit about what you do as the director of cricket, and also how do you attract and retain players at the club, as you've just mentioned before?
So obviously, I was approached to do the job by the chairman Anthony Gradecki about 2 seasons ago, and I'll be honest, Kobe, I didn't say yes straight away because I thought it could be an headache, it could be a lot of grief, it could be like anything is like that. But then I just couldn't stop thinking that I could make a difference, and I thought I'm going to do it. So it obviously involves running all 3 senior teams. So obviously I select the 3 teams. I take and look after training, and I suppose I outline sort of the way that I want the teams to play. And I suppose it's a bit of a buzzword, but obviously try and set the culture of the team, which I'll be honest wasn't great when I started, and it's now night and day from where it was. Obviously the lads have realised what I want from them, and they're all doing it. So in terms of obviously attracting players, I think again 2 or 3 years ago I spoke to several captains of first division teams to get an angle on what they thought of us. Nobody had anything bad to say, but I think the general consensus was that we were a little bit naive, a little bit soft at times. We could get bullied around a bit by some of the big boys, and I just wanted to change that. And slowly, I feel that we are. So I think people can look from the outside, and people are sort of looking at what we're doing, and it's easier to attract players now because they can see that things are being done correctly. The training's good, the team spirit's great, and it's just a good club now. So that's made it easier, a lot easier.
Yeah, so Atherton, you've got a rich history of bringing juniors through, and now you've got juniors in your first team, second team, and third team. But in your role, how do you spot young talent at the club, and how do you kind of approach? What's your kind of approach to developing that talent?
Well, obviously, being someone who came through Atherton's juniors, it's like most teams. Obviously, you put all your emphasis on your juniors. Before I did this role, I was actually one of the junior coaches. So a lot of the lads I've sort of grown up with anyway. And obviously it's apparent in the performances in junior cricket who's doing what and who's performing. Those lads obviously will always play in the third team, the development team. And then it's just about trying to bed them into the senior, get into the first and second team. It has been tricky over the last few years because even though the squad's getting better, it was a relatively small squad. So lads who maybe, I think that, the way of, you move up from say under 15s and then you start playing in the second team and then you start having a little go at the first team and you do it all nice and gently. Over the last few years, we have had to put lads in the first team a little bit, possibly before they're quite ready, but there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can do the sink or swim, or you can do if they don't quite perform, it gives them a little bit of resilience to come back. And that's the way I look at it. And I have no issue with putting lads, they're talented, but it is difficult and it is hard to go from, junior cricket and really perform in senior cricket, especially at first team level. But they're all, with a lot of lads about, 15, 16-year-old who are going to, in a few years, be really good. So that's obviously always the aim, is to have, at least 4 or 5 of your homegrown players in the team. You can never get away from that. But I mean, also, I think the days of, I think it was Social donkeys years ago, I think won the league with 10 homegrown players and a pro. I think that was fantastic, but I don't think that'll probably happen again. But because obviously you've always got to bring the odd person in just to keep everything competitive and stuff. But obviously the juniors will always be the sort of the main focus.
So with the NWCL exec looking to expand the league, and by the time this will come out, we would have published a new advert. What would you say the positives have been for Atherton since you've been in the NWCL?
Well, I'll be honest, Kobe. I think everyone at the club, when it was announced, was excited by it. Obviously unsure because it was something new. But everything so far, we've really enjoyed it. I mean, the cricket has been competitive, and I think it'll get better. Everyone's got a good pro overseas. The grounds are decent, and it was nice to go to some of the new clubs that we haven't obviously played against. The old Ribblesdale League teams, and the hospitality at those grounds was outstanding, really. And the other thing that I think that this league has got going for it is all this stuff. I mean, the sort of the social media side of the Northwest Cricket League, from what I can see, is better than any league. I mean, it's not often I look at other leagues, obviously, but if I do have to find something, some of the websites it's like prehistoric compared to the Northwest Cricket League stuff. So that's another, bonus really.
That's good. And you kind of touched on it, Ben, but what would you say the league's main asset is to attract some more clubs for the next couple of years?
Well, I just think the organisation of it and the competitive nature of the cricket really. And one of the things that people did obviously question initially about, is it too far to travel to this team and that team? And it's absolutely been no issue. I mean, I think the furthest we have been is 50 odd minutes away, which was Earby and Barn Oldwick. No issue. I mean, it can take 45 minutes to get from Atherton to Eagley. If you get stuck in Bolton Town Centre. So there was no issue with it at all. It was all good.
Good. So now I want to look into your career. So I know what most of the Ribblesdale teams might not know who you were. So in 1999, you was selected for England under-19s in a test tour of New Zealand. Can you tell us a bit about that experience and how you got selected and the whole experience, pretty much?
Yeah, so obviously, so like I touched on earlier, Kobe, I joined Atherton as a 7 or 8 year old. I played at Atherton up to obviously being 19. I was initially more of a batsman, really. And I was opening the batting for Atherton first team when I was 14, 15 and doing quite well. I got 100 I think it was a national knockout game at Marple, and I was still in under 15 and I got 100. So I was all set to sort of be a batsman, but I could always bowl. But I sort of had a few niggles and stuff like you do at that age when you grow on. Well, not growing too much, but and then I finally got a ball in a cross cup game the game was dead and buried. And the captain, Steve Walsh, who was excellent for my career, he just threw me the ball and he was like, give one of the young ones a ball, the game's over. And I got 6 for about 15 and won them the game. So the week after I opened the bowling, and in half a season, I think I got something like 50 odd wickets. So I then was obviously playing for Lancashire juniors all the way through the age groups as a batsman, really. But then started to get a ball. So when I got to about 17, I ended up like switching roles, really. I started to open the bowling, but then bat sort of 6, 7 at sort of representative cricket. And the bowling from then on just took off like unbelievably. So I started to get picked for like Lancashire second team. And then I got picked for England under-19 schoolboys to play against Pakistan. And did well in those games. So then I got selected for like a bigger squad, which was the proper England under-19s, which didn't matter if you worked or was at school or what. Most of the people picked were already professional cricketers. I wasn't at the time. I would think I was picked in a squad of 28 or something like that. So we had from about autumn to up to Christmas, we had sort of every 10 days or so, 2 or 3 days training at Trent Bridge. And some of it was alongside the England A team. So you can imagine it was pretty decent. So from that, we went to Lillishall for like some final fitness testing and something where they was going to announce the squad. So they was cutting it from, like I said, 20 odd to whatever the final number was. I can't quite remember, maybe 17 or so. And I went into this room and obviously got told I was picked. So I was absolutely, obviously, overjoyed, as were all the family and everyone at Atherton. And I remember at the time, I was actually the only amateur player selected. Every single other player was already a professional or had played first class cricket. So obviously we got picked, went to New Zealand, and it was fantastic. I think 8 weeks or so. I think we played 3 tests, 3 or 4 one-day internationals, quite a lot of like obviously games in between. I did okay. I got a few 50s and a few 3-fers and stuff, and it was really good. It was just like the experience of it was fantastic. I mean, we had the captain was a guy called Michael Goff, who was like the best opening batsman around. He got 50 age 17 for Durham against South Africa. And South Africa, it was their only warm-up game before a test series. So they had like Donald and Pollock and he got 50 at 17. He was unbelievable. But I don't know what happened with him because when he got in his mid-20s, I think he fell out with the game. And he's now probably one of the best umpires in the world. He's on like the ICC top thing of umpires. Obviously, we had Ian Bell, who was a little bit younger than me, but obviously he was like an unbelievable batsman. You could even see it then. I think he got a double century in one of the test matches, and I think he was only 16. There was a lad called Richard Dawson who played in the Ashes, an off spinner. I think he's now Glamorgan's head coach, I think. It just a really nice set of lads as well. But yeah, it was brilliant. It was like set me up really for a lot of things. It was really good.
What advice would you give to young lads and girls out there? Maybe obviously to play for England under 19s is a massive achievement, and not many get that. But even just playing for Lancs, what advice would you give them as if they're 13, 14, 15 now?
Well, I think I never saw any barriers in terms of like what I would just say is it doesn't matter who you play for. If you give it everything and you work hard enough, you'll get to whatever goal you want to achieve. I mean, it sort of irritates me a little bit when I keep seeing lads who have got bags of potential and they leave into this league and they go into this club in this Liverpool comp, this and that league, that, and it's like wait a little bit. There's no rush. You don't need to. I think one of the main things for me was I was playing for Atherton, and sort of people looked a little bit down on the Bolton Association. Really, they always thought it was like the poor brother to the Bolton League. But what it did is it gave me an opportunity at 17, 16, 17 to open the ball in against men and professionals and really perform. So I think, if I'd have moved somewhere else at that age and maybe been a bit part player, I don't think it wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have been picked for England because I wouldn't have been learnt the game and got the skills and had the form that I had. So that's what my advice would be to junior players is to stick with your hometown club until you're a little bit older, and then if you want to start looking for a move when you get to 19, 20, and you've done a bit, that's fine. But I don't really think. I mean, I understand there's a pressure from other people now that they've got to play in these, but I don't think they need to. Like I say, it's just about committing, and I just was so single-minded. Training in winter, like when my mates would be going out and that type of thing. I just dialed down on it. I just knew what I wanted to do, and thankfully I did achieve it.
So one more thing I want to briefly touch on is when your time at Warrington. So in 2007, you captured all 10 wickets in a game against Farmworth Social Circle. You was the first bowler to get a 10 since Mark Stewart in 1999 when he was at Greenmount. Can you tell us a bit about that game? And, was that your first time getting a 10 before? I'm guessing it was, or any club?
Yeah, to be honest, it was a long time ago, Kobe, but I can still remember some of it. I mean, what I think stands out is that I think it was on a Sunday, and I think I was stiff as a board from the day before because I'd bowled, I think, about 15 overs on the Saturday and got no wickets. Was touring, well, I had heard them, but I was touring it out. I couldn't get a wicket the day before, and I was like a bit down on myself. And then I was really stiff. I remember that. But the wickets at Warden, when when it was quite dry, they were great. They had really good carry and pace in them. And I think it might have drizzled a bit in the morning, I think, but it wasn't raining, but it might have just done a little bit. So I think it was quite like zippy on the surface. And I think for a good part of it, not much was going on. I think I'd probably bowled about 10 overs and maybe got 2 or 3 wickets. But then all of a sudden, it just out of nowhere, like it just became like a dream, really. It was one of those things that just everything went your way. I mean, it was like every ball you bowled on off stump, they nicked it to the keeper or to slip or. So what I can remember is when they got to 9, I can't think who it was. Somebody edged one to slip, not an easy catch, and somebody drops it. So that would have been it for me. And they didn't do it on purpose, genuinely, because it was quite a difficult catch. So when it was the 10, I remember obviously getting it, and I'd seen our professional at the time was a guy called Paul Wiseman, or maybe he was the year before, but he was from New Zealand, but he'd actually then signed for Durham. So we'd stayed friendly with him. And that season, Otis Gibson was playing for Durham as well, and he got 10 wickets. And I remember him like sending me a video or saying, "Look at this," and he took his shirt off and like whizzed it round his head. So I thought, right, if I get 10, I'm going to do that. So somebody edged one to the keeper, and the shirt came off, and I give it all that. But yeah, it was nice because also, I mean, Mark Stewart was an unbelievable bowler, so it was nice to sort of get that and follow up what he did as well.
So, lastly, I want to go into some quick fire questions now. So, first one is, I assume it might be a bit obvious, but your favourite cricketing memory?
I only allowed one.
If you want.
I think that it is. There's so many, honestly, man. But I think the one that does stand out the most is when obviously getting told that you've been picked for England, because I was in obviously Lillishaw's quite an old-fashioned, old-school like sports centre where all the England football and cricket and everything used to be based, and I had to go into this like it was like going in Hogwarts, like in this office, and there was Mike Gatting who was the manager, and John Abrams who was the coach, and maybe somebody else. And I genuinely didn't have a clue. I was like, giving it everything, and I was so hopeful. And I'd seen lads go in and come out. One lad was actually in tears because I think he'd turned down like quite a lucrative like pro-in job in Perth or something, and he hadn't been picked. And I got told I was picked, and that jubilation. I remember going back to my room and getting my stuff packed up because it was like it might have been the day before Christmas Eve, so it was a bit like Chris Rea. I packed the boot up, and I literally drove home that night, knowing that I'd been picked, and that was probably the best feeling that I've had in cricket.
And your best player you've played with?
The best player I've played with? He's probably not someone that you'd probably expect. The most talented player I would say that I played cricket with was a guy called Dave Smith. So I walked in obviously for I think 5 or 6 seasons, really successfully. I think we won the Bolton League about 4 times in that. One year we won the treble, we won the Bolton League, we won the Hamer Cup, and we won the Lancs Knockout. But Dave Smith was just like so naturally gifted and talented. He could get 100, he could get 7 or 8 wickets. He never dropped a catch. He could throw the ball from anywhere on a field, 6 foot off the ground, flat into the keeper. And he was only, he was only a small fella, Dave, but he was so talented. Easily could have made it at whatever level. Why he didn't, I'm not sure, but yeah, he was probably the best player that I played with.
And the toughest and amateur pro batter that you've bowled to?
So I would say that in the amateurs, I could never get out Mike Bennison. So when I had 4 years at Heaton, and I used to absolutely throw the kitchen sink at Bennison. never got anywhere. He used to get 100 virtually every game against Eton. Very strong-minded guy. He was obviously became my captain at Wharton. Probably the most mentally tough amateur cricketer I've ever come across. He wasn't flamboyant or he didn't have all the shots. He just knew his own game. So he was a really tough person to bowl at. And then probably out of professionals and stuff, obviously bowled a lot of play. But I probably can't look past, in a proper match, Ian Bell. I used to play against him in like North East South games and stuff like that. And he just had, it's like his bat was like 3 foot wide. He had so much time. And obviously he went on to, I think, win the Ashes 5 times. So it wasn't a bad one.
And your favourite ground to play at besides any of the clubs you've played for?
I used to enjoy playing at Greenmount because for some reason I think the wicket used to suit me. Stewie used to obviously bang it in short a bit and he used to come on. And I was quite good at the back foot cross back shots and I used to always score runs at Greenmount. I was never any good at the slower lower grounds. I never scored a run at Kersley or anywhere like that in my life, I don't think. So yeah, I used to like playing at Greenmount. Of the obviously main grounds, I think obviously the ones in New Zealand were spectacular. Obviously, was it the Basin Reserve was nice. Wellington. I used to like Old Trafford because it just the memories of the place from being a kid. I know it's probably not a good answer really, but yeah, just everything about Old Trafford as well.
And your favourite cricketing legend?
When I was little, I've got a few. So growing up as a little kid, obviously my dad used to take me to Old Trafford. I used to love Neil Fairbrother, who was a left-handed batsman for Lancashire. But then as I got older and I became more of a bowler, I used to love watching Alan Donald. I used to get my mum to put the VHS recorder on. I'd be like pausing it and watching his bowling action and stuff. He was fantastic. And then in modern times, I would probably say Ben Stokes. I would say just because of his never say die sort of attitude, really.
And the last one, what's one word the Atherton lads would use to describe you?
That's a tough question. I don't really know, but committed, maybe, or professional.
Yeah.
One of those.
I think that's all the questions I have. Anything you'd like to add before we end?
No, everything's fine with that, Corey. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
So thank you for coming on. I wish you best luck this season, and I know you play Salisbury the weekend, so best luck for that game.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, lads. Like I said, we've done a lot of stuff in pre-season, and just looking forward to getting going now.
Real. Well, best of luck this season. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Corby. All the best.
Cheers.